New balance changes were just announced for Standard Hearthstone, and they're going to be going live next Thursday. So in this video, I'm going to be going over what cards are most likely to get nerfed. Welcome back, guys. In a recent tweet by Alec Dawson, the lead designer of the balance team, he said that we're going to be getting 3 balance changes coming next Thursday. They're going to be touching Priest and Druid. Now, they haven't said exactly what's going to be changed, but they have given us some hints. And given my experience as a lifetime deck builder and a guy that just analyzes stats, I have some pretty good ideas. Now, all the changes that you're about to see in this video are my opinion, so some of them may not be accurate, but I did try to think about these as long as possible, and I tried to analyze some statistics, and I really went over these instead of just trying to rush out a video as soon as possible to give you guys the most accurate predictions. So without further ado, let's hop into the first one. All right, so kicking off the first change is going to be in Priest, and they have hinted that they are looking to change burst healing and generation. So as far as the generation aspect goes to it, I think that they are going to nerf renew, and I believe it's going to be going to 2 mana. This is going to be a substantial nerf because they can't generate renew from Wand Maker anymore. So you can't go things like Raise Dead into Wand Maker into more renews and stuff like that. You can't really quite go as infinite as you could before. Now, there's definitely some contenders for the biggest offenders of all this generation stuff. You know, there's Draconic Studies, there's Palm Reading, there's Raise Dead, but I also think that it's going to be renew as well because they're probably not going to touch any shadow spells because they're really going to try to push Shadow Priest in the next expansion. So that excludes like Palm Reading and Raise Dead. And honestly, I believe the class needs these cards. Priest doesn't have access to any kind of mass card draw right now, so the only thing that Priest has like that is Raise Dead. Also too, by moving renew to 2 mana, you can't cast it in the same turn on turn 3 as a Palm Reading, because right now Palm Reading discounts a renew down to 0 mana, so whenever you get a renew from Palm Reading, you just automatically pick it because that's just a free discover and free 3 healing. But now you might think twice about picking that renew because you might have to wait a turn to discover again, so you might want to just pick a better card in the first place. It also does make it a little bit tougher to cast Xyrella in the same turn as renew as well, so now instead of like a 5 cost play or a 4 cost play, it's going to be at least 6 cost. So to chain together a bunch of healing in the same turn as like a Xyrella is going to be a lot harder. You're going to have a lot less board clear potential in Priest. All right, so the second change I believe is coming to Priest is going to be Apotheosis, and I believe that's going to be moving to giving a minion +1/+2 instead of +2/+3. Now, let's be real, there's a lot of problems with Apotheosis. The biggest one is going to be with Blademaster Samuro. On turn 7 or even 6, if it's discounted, you slap an Apotheosis on a Samuro, you clear your entire opponent's board, you heal back up to full health, and that's an insane swing turn. So with this proposed change, you give Samuro 1 less attack, which means that he is a lot less of a board clear. Instead of dealing 3 damage to all enemy minions, he'll only do 2 damage to all enemy minions, and for each enemy minion that he hits, he'll gain 1 less life. So as far as like big swing turns, that's a lot of healing that you're taking away, and that's a lot less damage that you're taking away too, just by this 1 nerf. I thought about if they were going to touch the mana cost of Apotheosis, and I don't believe that the mana cost is really relevant, because a priest never casts Apotheosis on a minion in the same turn that they play the minion anyways. They usually just wait for one of their minions to stick around on the board, and then they throw an Apotheosis onto there. So the mana is kind of irrelevant. They'll always have enough mana to play the Apotheosis, whether it's at 3 mana or 4 mana. Also too, by giving it +1/+2 instead of +2/+3, the minion that they throw an Apotheosis onto is a lot easier to kill as well. That 1 health does make a huge difference, as we've seen of previous nerfs like Hand of Adal. Like that simple nerf from Hand of Adal all of a sudden dropped Paladin down from first place all the way down to last place just by giving it 1 less health from a buff. And maybe with 1 less health, maybe you'll only have to run 1 minion into that Apotheosis minion instead of 2 to give them that extra healing. I also thought about if they were going to nerf Blademaster Samuro instead of the Apotheosis for that big swing turn, but I don't believe so because Samuro does help out some other classes like Rush Warrior, and honestly it's pretty hard to nerf Samuro by touching any of it. You can't really make it more expensive because that makes it unplayable. You can't nerf its attack down to 0 because that makes it unplayable. I guess maybe it's health, but even still, like you'd still play it as a 1/5 probably. All right, so moving into the third and final nerf that they suggested is going to be to Druid, and they gave a hint that they wanted to nerf Druid's like burst potential or non-game potential. Now, when you're thinking about non-games, that usually happens when they create a flood of minions by turns like 1 or 2 that you just can't deal with, and you just have to concede. So I figured the best possible card for them to nerf nerf would be Gibberling, and that's going to be going from 1 mana to 2 mana. I also looked at the statistics of Gibberling as well too, and it is the highest win rate card in the mulligan by far. It's actually at a 60% win rate in the mulligan. If you nerf Gibberling from 1 mana to 2 mana, you nerf the possibility of them popping off by 1 turn. So by waiting an extra turn, now all of a sudden you have 1 more mana to deal with their flood of minions. So there's a lot of like 4-costed AoE spells that can possibly deal with that kind of a turn. We have the new Fire Sale card coming out. There's like Consecration, Soul Rend. So if you just delay that Gibberling pop-off turn by 1, that just gives you an extra turn, so that way you can have enough mana to just AoE their board. I also thought about like what other possible cards they might hit in Druid, and really the only problematic cards that you have in Druid, you have Arbor Up, which I don't believe they're going to nerf because it's pretty balanced as is, honestly, and it's really good in other archetypes in Druid too. There's also Glowfly Swarm, which they could nerf to maybe 6 mana to delay that pop-off turn, but I think those non-games occur like in the turns 1, 2, 3. So if you're talking about turns 1, 2, 3, you're usually talking about Gibberling. The soonest that an opponent can get out like a Glowfly Swarm is maybe like a Lightning Bloom on turn 3, but even then, if you're at like turns like 3 or 4, but again, if you're at like 3 to 4 mana, you're at that 4 mana breakpoint where you have access to a ton of removal. And Pride's Fury usually happens later in the game when you already have abortive minions, so that's why I believe it's probably Gibberling. So there you have it, guys, the 100% correct predictions for what's going to be nerfed next Thursday for Standard. Let me know what you guys think about the nerfs down below in the comment section. Let me know if you believe I was right or wrong, or tell me what your guys' opinions are. And if you appreciate the insight that you saw in this video, then let me know by leaving a like down below. That really does help me out a lot with YouTube algorithm. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.